Hello, and welcome to episode 160 of Design Curious Podcast. I'm your host and mentor, Rebecca Ward. Today on the podcast, I have guest Whitney English. Let me tell you a little bit about her. She believes that anyone can live a beautiful life. She believes that gratitude is the birthplace of joy, that people matter, that love is the answer, that if you're real, you can't be ugly, that everyone is creative and some of us have just forgotten, and that it's worth trying to be a better version of yourself today than you were yesterday. Whitney has bootstrapped 2 businesses to 7 figures, has a degree in interior design, studied management at Parsons in New York City, and has had her work featured in O Magazine, Wall Street Journal, and on the Today Show twice. She was featured as one of Country Living magazine's Women Entrepreneurs in 2008. One of her favorite dreams come true, though, is her husband David and their 3 children. We have a fun episode today talking about making your space beautiful, and so I know you're going to love it. Let's get into it. You're now listening to Design Curious, a place where you, creative one, are here to learn about what it really is like to be an interior designer. And I'm your host and mentor, Rebecca Ward. If you're worried about how to succeed in a creative career, if you're ready to learn your next steps to become an interior designer, and if you want the satisfaction of doing something you love every day, you are in the right place. Grab a coffee, a notebook, and let's dig into today's episode. Hi, Whitney. Welcome to Design Curious Podcast. It's great to have you here today.
Thank you for having me, Rebecca. I'm excited to talk.
Yeah, me too. I know you have a book out. It's called Organize First, Decorate Second. Why don't you tell us how your journey, I know you have a degree in interior design, what brought you to writing this book? So where did it all start way back when you wanted to be a designer?
I have always been design curious, I guess, is the answer to that question.
Great.
I absolutely love that name and relate to that so much. I'm fascinated with the idea that this concept of design is like not that far away from order. It's not that like the idea of order, I believe God created the world and that required like setting things into order to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I just remember being 7 years old and drawing my first floor plan, which my mom did save. So it is in a box in the top of my closet. I remember taking it to my uncle, who was an architect, and showing him. I was just so, I had a dollhouse. I was constantly dreaming up all the things that I could do to, still have that dollhouse. If I need a project, it's there. So anyway, so I wrote the book because I wanted to talk about design, but I really wanted to wrestle with the tension between the form and function of it all, which is like the core of the design conversation.
Yeah.
Right? If I put on my like design thinking hat.
Mm-hmm. How are you functioning in a space? Yeah.
Yeah. I want it to look good, but if it doesn't work, that's dysfunctional and that's not beautiful. That's not well designed. Yeah.
I like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you always knew that you wanted to be in design. Did you go straight into school for it, traditional path, or?
Yes. So I was a terrible student. I remember so much of my childhood was defined by this pursuit of creativity and then a subsequent following of just that works. Some kids probably like try to, somebody puts a baseball bat in their hand and they know how to swing. You put a marker in my hand and I knew how to draw. And not that I'm a great artist or anything, but I guess I was brave enough to try. Just or curious. I love the design curious thing. Just curious enough to be like, what's it going to look like if I try to make this flower look like a firework? And so I was just always chasing that. And then there were accolades. I remember I won a poster competition at the school. And when I was in 2nd grade, my poster got picked as the poster for the celebratory event.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went to a very small private school. There was a big focus on sports and I was the anomaly. I still don't understand football. My best friend is very sporty and athletic, and it's constantly knowing all the scores of all the teams. And every now and then I'll overhear something and I'll text her and she'll be like, who are you eavesdropping on now? Or did you ask ChatGPT to tell you something? She just knows it's not me.
Yeah.
But I just had to pursue that, scratch that itch,
Okay.
that creativity thing.
Okay. So you went straight into degree for interior design?
I did. From high school, I did. I wanted to get a degree in architecture. And on the way back from visiting the architecture college at Oklahoma State University, which is where I ended up going to school, I totally had a emotional breakdown over math. I mean, just terrified. Even though the people at the university were like, no, we'll get you through it. I'm like, no, really, you haven't seen me and a math problem yet. And hindsight being 2020, I probably could have just said, like, I'm going to fail that course, but that doesn't mean that I'm not going to get a degree in architecture. Maybe I'm not going to graduate with a super awesome GPA, but one of the things I've come to believe over time is, I call these isms, but sort of operating principles of life. And it's trust your creativity. That's not your last best idea. And I think that there is something to trusting your creativity. And I could have gotten through architecture school trusting my creativity. I could have, knowing that I would fail math, but that I would have a stellar portfolio.
Yeah.
And my creativity was hands down just the thing that it got me through high school. All the extra credit projects that the teacher was like, and if you want to make a trifold board and do a presentation on that, I'll give you an extra 100 points, whatever. Hallelujah. That is the step that saved me. I've challenged myself creatively at times. I ended up going with interior design instead of architecture. My degree is actually called facilities management, which is basically like an interior design degree with an emphasis in business. I think I have a minor in business.
Okay.
If you want to be technical about it. And I remember being in college and they were like, okay, you have to take an art class for that. You have to, Anyway, so I'm sitting there drawing a rock. The instructor put a rock on a pedestal in the middle of a room. Not a unique rock, not a rock that like looks like a flower or a silhouette or something. No, it was just a rock. And I remember sitting there going, dot, dot, dot. I'm just like drawing dots on an oval on the middle of it. And I just was like, what am I doing? I'm never going to be a fine artist. And so the idea of it was the most boring rock you'd ever seen in your entire life. And so I went to my advisor and she was like, well, why don't we get you business classes instead of art classes? So I ended up failing accounting or economics. I don't even remember.
Something with math in it though.
Yeah. Yes. Didn't even try, to be honest. Like I just knew that wasn't going to be it for me. So that's what I ended up with was that degree. I feel like I was telling another story in there, chasing a rabbit. And I can't remember which one it was.
Well, yeah, getting your degree in design. So you went into thinking about architecture and then going into design, but then getting facilities management. So it's an evolution.
It is. It was. Continued to be an evolution after that. You want me to tell you what happened after that?
What happens after that?
So I graduated in May of 2001 and moved to Dallas because there's a design center in Dallas, which is the market area where if you're an interior designer and you've got a client and they want very, very, very high-end, beautiful, I drool over this stuff, furniture that's like by Italians or just fabulous. So anyway, the design center was there. I sent resumes out. I got this job working at a family-owned furniture company. So they had a showroom that was to the trade. They had a retail store on Lovers Lane in Dallas. Any listeners are familiar with the Dallas area, right where I am, giving you some context for the visual. And I was spending a couple days a week at the showroom and then a couple days a week at the retail store. Then 9/11 happened. It wasn't a really great fit of a job. I realized I should have worked the resume game a little bit harder. The interview, some people are really good at finding jobs. They treat finding a job like a job. I actually overheard that phrase on a podcast the other day. And I think I just thought, oh, I'm going to go get whatever job is meant for me and it's going to fall into my lap. And I really wish coming out of school had been more intentional about my first job tying into the career I wanted to have
Okay.
instead of just like kind of taking the first thing that came my way.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't a great job. It was a small company. I was working with a small team of women. There wasn't great leadership. There was a competitive environment that, and here I was I was just straight out of call. It's not like I thought I knew everything, but I was just kind of like, let's do it. I wanted to design stuff my entire life. Let's design it, like give me something to do. It didn't matter what it was. I just wanted to do it and do it right.
Mm-hmm.
There was a strong perfectionist streak that it's not that I am a perfectionist. I want to be a perfectionist. I want to do it the right way. And it is incredibly frustrating to me that I don't do perfection well. Some people do it really well. I'm not that person. So anyway, and then 9/11 happened in between it not being a great fit. And then we were kind of like, okay, we need to go our separate ways with this employment thing. So I ended up taking a job at a furniture store. So went to the straight commission sales job.
Okay.
And then from there, I actually met my husband at that subsequent job. So that was good.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think that, and I was only there for like 6 months or so at the job and then moved back to Oklahoma. We didn't end up getting married until 7 years later. It took him some time to figure that out. We dated off and on and we're friends really for the most of it. And now we have 3 kids.
Wow.
Where I am.
Yeah. Okay. So you're back in Oklahoma City. And then did you work for a design firm or?
No, I didn't. The design market in Oklahoma City, again, like I probably could have been more, I don't know, because I needed a job. I went back to work at the stationery store that I had worked at all through high school and college. I was really good at designing invitations for people. We had stock and inventory on things that we would print in-house. There was a system to this business that the owner of that store had created over time. And I'd worked there for so long, I knew this person prints this stuff and this person prints this stuff and this person stocks the shelves and this person goes to the quick print and picks up the orders. And I knew how to do all that stuff. And so it was really seamless to just step back in there. And if they needed somebody creative, if they needed a cute little poem or they needed something, they called me. And there were several people in my life at that time who were like, you're really good at this. You could start a company doing this. And so my boss took me to Dallas Market and basically showed me how to start a wholesale business.
Nice.
And I did. Yeah. By the time I was 22, I had a team of sales reps through design centers and just markets out all over the country. And we were that business. So I had a wholesale stationery business. So I designed note cards that then people would monogram. That business lasted for 10 years. It was amazing. I didn't get married until I was 28. So from the time I was 22 until the time I was 20, I was just running my own business.
Yeah, that's amazing.
We were in like 3,000 stores nationwide and had all kinds of, there were just so many opportunities that came from running a wholesale business. I really do think that for people who are curious about pursuing a career in design, if you can work for any type of company that is wholesale or that does manufacturing, not business to consumer, but business to business, there are some great networking opportunities to be had at those trade shows. I still have friends and people I keep in touch with that there's some, because you've all traveled to this one place. It's almost like going to summer camp, except it's a trade show,
Right.
Like Debbie Peterson, who used to own a competing company. I can't remember what the name of her company is, but I remember Debbie Peterson. I remember all the conversations that we had, even though I probably have only seen Debbie Peterson like 3 times in my entire life.
Yeah.
There was a community and a network. And then subsequently, whenever I started a planner company after the first company failed, which we can talk about that if you want to, but I made a choice to go to one trade show just for the purposes of networking. I was not trying to get the product in a bunch of stores nationwide. I just knew that there would be opportunities that came out of being in that environment. And there were. I don't remember, well, the president of Stuart Weitzman. I think, again, I probably could have worked that angle a little bit more. If I wanted some shoes, she wanted a planner. I should have been like, how about some shoes and planner? Like, there's
a good trade.
Yeah. But anyway.
Yeah, no, that's really true. Is connecting is really critical. I say that a lot for people starting their career. Most of the time I would get, like when I was starting out, I got a job because of who I knew, not what I knew. And connections are so critical for building your career and advancing it and opening your eyes to what's out there too, because you're talking to other people and you're like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't think about that, So or like just like this, like listening to podcasts too. It's like I get to hear about all the other avenues that people have taken in interior design and gone different directions with it. Really fascinating to me. Yeah. So then let's talk about the book a little bit.
Okay.
Because I am obviously a designer. I can be organized, but my home, like my goal for this year is to like get it cleaned out and organized, like, declutter, all the things that people are always wanting, especially when you have kids. I feel it's harder to stay on top of it. And you said something in your Instagram post recently about how decluttering is really a storytelling related to you. Can you expand on that? I'd love to hear more.
One of the lines of copy that we have used to market the book is, what story is your home trying to tell? And if I look at the piles around my room, I mean, they're there. I'm not naturally organized. I told you that before we started recording, but I did just admit that I have this perfectionist streak, this desire that if it just looks good and it doesn't work good, or if it's organized, but then I can't find it, there's a tension there that as a creative, I feel like is a problem that can be solved. It can't be solved. I think that as humans, we just have to learn to sit with that tension and make little bits of progress on it over time. But if I look at those piles around my room, I mean, that they're different open storylines is what they are. So there's a stack of American Express envelopes. That's just a decision that needs to be made. Those need to go into a box in the garage and be labeled with the year.
Yeah.
In case, and then after 7 years, I can throw that box away. And so when I start looking at things like that, I mean, sometimes the decision is the hardest part of the decluttering. If you open the cabinet doors and like all the Tupperware lids fall out, you're either going to get frustrated or go spend money on some kind of infomercial Tupperware lid contraption that really isn't going to solve your problem anyway, And so sometimes I think that we don't organize because we know subconsciously, instinctively, it's going to snowball into something we didn't have time to deal with. And why did I start this? And or at least that's how I work. So
yeah, that's relatable.
The funny thing about writing a book is you put these thoughts and ideas out there, and then they tell you to go market the book, and you have a podcast, and you're like, wait, this is a whole nother angle gone into the book. Like, that's a really good point, Whitney, So anyway, and that's where the title of the book came from, was I think I was probably trying to hang pictures or something and make something look pretty. And I was probably working around a mess or hunting for a hammer, or I couldn't find the tape measure or a box of nails. And I just organize first, Whitney. Like, put the stuff where you can find it. And so I think there's something very rewarding about the intention, the practice of being intentional about where we place things. And the idea of giving those things a home and a sense of belonging. Little thing. This is where you go. In the book, I talk about Marie Kondo's life-changing magic of tidying up, because we're all familiar with that. That's part of the cultural lingo at this point. Whenever I read that book, the idea of does this spark joy? really simplified the whole, like, let me ask myself 16 questions before I decide what to do with this. I don't have the energy to sit there and go through 16 questions about what to do with the box of American Express bills.
Yeah.
I just need, do those spark joy? No.
Definitely not.
Do I need them in the future? Maybe. Okay, so let's put a system in place that stores those, then we can dispose of them down the road, kind of thing.
Yeah. When I was looking at the title of your book, I also was thinking of it in relation to just the design process too, because like if I go to design a bathroom or a kitchen or someplace where you need to be super functional, I need to ask the client, like, oh, what are all the things that we're trying to contain? Like, do you have a stand-up mixer? Do you have like, all these components to cooking? Or are you not like a cook at all? So you don't really need a lot in the kitchen, So it's like understanding how you want to organize the place first makes sense. And then you can make it look great.
1,000%. I mean, absolutely. I actually tell a story in my book about a couple that had hired me. It just ended up being a disaster because I couldn't get on the same page with them about the form and function thing. The idea that if we put a pantry around the three corners from the kitchen, if we have to do a U-turn to get to the pantry, it's,
Yeah.
And they ultimately, I don't think most people think about quality of life from the standpoint of like the number of steps it takes me to get the oven to the pot holder drawer. But there really is. And I learned this when we were doing the manufacturing. I call it the night of two U-Hauls. We had to ship like 3,000 planners in 3 hours.
Ooh.
Well, if you break that out and you're like, okay, how long does it take me to ship a planner? Well, step 1 is I have to put these cards in here. And step 2 is I have to wrap it with this tissue. And step 3 is I have to put a sticker on it. Step 4 is I have to tie a bow around it. Step 5 is I've got to put a shipping label. And then step 6 is I got to put it in a box. And the box had to be put together. So that was actually step 6. Step 7 is put it in a box. So anyway, I calculated out the man hours that it was going to take. And it was something like 830 man hours. All of a sudden, just and this is where my analytical brain kicks in. I can't do complicated math, but I can add, subtract, multiply, and divide.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, none of us have 830 hours to do this. But collectively, if I can find enough friends and we can streamline this process. So we picked up the they would have been freighted overnight planners we picked them up at the freight center downtown, put them in the back of the U-Haul. We had rented a separate U-Haul that had all the supplies in it that we needed. We backed the 2 U-Hauls up to get no one can see. We're not doing, this is the video, but back to back in a McDonald's parking lot. And we took planners off. We set up folding tables down the center of these 2 U-Hauls. And we took planners from one U-Haul and we put them through this assembly line into the other U-Haul because we figured out that if we could reduce the number of steps. I mean, and the level of organization and planning that night required. We ended up shipping 3,000 planners in less than 6 hours. Wow. I was in bed by 11 o'clock at night and we didn't even pick up. It was on a Saturday. We didn't even get the planners picked up until like 3 or 4 in the afternoon.
Wow.
And maybe even later than that. I can't remember because everything had gone wrong with that order. But there was an incredible feeling at the end of that night, knowing that like I had put this structure, I'd planned it. And we'd organized it first and foremost. And because of that, the process was pretty. Are 2 U-Hauls cute in the middle of a McDonald's parking lot? No. But there was like a very simple, seamless beauty to the efficiency that we created that night. Yeah.
Wow. And then to bring that point home, like the number of steps that you have to make in order to go from one area to the next, you really want in your home the path of least resistance for keeping it beautiful and keeping it organized. So you need it to be make sense. Like you don't want to walk around 3 corners to get to your pantry. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Usually if you will like look at a problem long enough, and this is what I love about creativity, is if you And this frustrates people. Like I've been on team projects in college and things like that. And I'm constantly like, no, there has to be a better way to do it. It's back to that perfectionist streak. But I will take a problem and look at it from 20 different directions before I solve it because I want to pick the best solution.
Mm-hmm.
And I've learned that about myself over time. Like when I am working with someone, whether it's a client or whether I'm working for them as an employee or a team member, I'm looking for people that I think that's one thing that I would say to people who are design curious about careers is, are the people on your team, are they trying to solve a problem or are they trying to achieve a goal? And figure out whether you're aligned on that. Because those are really two different things. The goal is this house needs a pantry anywhere. Just give me a pantry. But the problem is that if we put the pantry, and me as a designer, if I put the pantry in the wrong space and my name is on that project, there's really a tension there that can be, I ended up resigning from that project, that client project, because I just was like, that was, the pantry is just one example. There were 15 others where I just thought, I mean, including things that I felt like were dangerous. Like, we're going to get an electric permit. We're not going to, I mean, there were some very serious, at least terrifying structural things that they wanted to cut corners on.
From that situation for sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
When, if you just slow down, and a lot of people don't want to do that, and you just organize the project first, the end result is a work of art because you did put, even if I don't know what Jackson Pollock's creative process was like, but I'm assuming it wasn't complete chaos, that there had to be some sort of, and I think that if you go to an art gallery, and I have never done this, like you're talking to all these, fancy artists, they're like esoterically, they're just, hopefully they're describing their process. I mean, hopefully it's not just chaos and we're calling it beautiful. I mean, maybe the thing, I'm not necessarily attracted to Jackson Pollock's paintings because they look like a 3-year-old, whatever. But there was something to that. And I'm not educated on what it was, but now I'm curious about it. Maybe it was an order and a structure and a process that he applied to his creativity.
It'd be good to research that. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
Whitney, so many great things to think about today. Is there anything besides maybe reading your book that you would leave our listeners recommending them who are thinking about maybe becoming a creative professional?
Oh, man. There's more than we have time for, but I think I very much relate. And I feel like hopefully I've talked a little bit about that here, but just sometimes it feels very hard to be a creative. And I don't think you have to be creative to go into the design field, but if you are creative and you are in the design field, man, these are some of my favorite people though, because a smart creative is going to be able to have conversations about things that the rest of the world ignores, that it's almost like the secret club where you actually know that, okay, let me back up. The ancient philosophers talked about the transcendental, truth, goodness, and beauty. And the design professionals, the people who've really approached design as a skill that they're trying to hone, know that instinctively. I think we know that beauty is the thing that can catch us off guard. It can speak to our soul. It inspires awe. It provokes a almost visceral. True beauty evokes something, a reaction in us that all the speeches and preaching in the world cannot inspire. And I think that that's probably the encouragement that I would want listeners to leave with today is, that feeling that I'm talking about, that beauty strikes. And it is an honorable mission and purpose to look at the world and try to figure out how you can improve your own little corner of it, even in your own dysfunction. Like, I mean, not that I pride myself on my dysfunction, but I mean, we all have flaws, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't try
Yeah.
to put a little order and beauty into our corner of the world and then teach other people around it. I really appreciate that that's what your podcast does, is that is trying to expose people to really a world that, damn, it's amazing. I love the trade show people. I love the design curious people. Like, these are the best conversations that I have. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, well said,
So
Whitney. I love that. That's really
thank
great
you.
advice.
Yeah.
Well, we'll make sure that we have all of your contact information in the show notes so people can reach out and find you and chat more about all the things that you have. So much more to give. So thank you, Whitney, for coming on today. It's been a great talking with you.
Thanks for having me, Rebecca.
So if you'd like to reach out to Whitney, you can find her contact information in the show notes. Be sure and follow her on Instagram and all the other socials where you might be at, or go to her website and check out her book, Organize First, Decorate Second. They'll be really fun. I know I'm going to go take a look at it. Don't forget, we have Launch Your Business Bootcamp coming up in January. You can get on the wait list now and get your dream design business started in 2026. Let's do this. That's all I have for you this week. Next week, we'll have another great episode. And until then, stay creative. Thanks for listening. If you love this episode, please leave a rating and a review. This helps me reach other curious creatives like you. If you have a topic request or would like to contact me, simply head over to my website, rwarddesign.com, or email me at podcast@rwarddesign.com.